Let's talk FMCG now, and let's talk about Unilever in particular. While they've managed to post a fabulous Q4, the discretionary and out-of-home categories have improved on a sequential basis. Skin cleansing was left by Lifebuoy in the premium segment. The price increase has actually helped protect the business. Also, the tea brands continue to grow in high double digits. Nutrition volumes as well have grown in double digits. All things looking pretty and perfect when it comes to Q4. But now with the series and spades of mini lockdowns, curbs and curfews being put in place, what's the visibility going forward? Let's talk about all of this. Look back and look ahead with none other than Sanjiv Mehta, the chairman and MD at Unilever, joining in on the show right now. Sanjiv, hi, great to have you on the show. First things first, I hope all's safe and all's well with the Unilever family and you.
Thank you, Aisha. Yes, I'm safe. But before we commence, I would just like to express heartfelt condolences to all our country people who have lost their loved ones. Wish a speedy recovery to those who are battling this virus, and immense gratitude to all the people who are standing up against the adversities and are fighting tirelessly to keep all of us safe. So on that note, let us commence, Aisha. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, absolutely, our pleasure. And who better than you really to put things into perspective as to what's happening on ground. But Sanjiv, it almost feels that you're back to square one, back where we started off. You're again locked up in your homes. We're again seeing a surge and spike in the virus. Are companies such as you better equipped this time around as opposed to the same time last year, because you've already been a year into the pandemic now?
Absolutely. One is we have built new muscles. And we also identified significantly at the beginning of the pandemic is what are the areas we are going to focus on. And we have not taken eyes off those focused areas. And they're very simple. First is safety and well-being of all the people who work in the value chain. Second is ensuring that the supply lines keep running. Third is ensuring that we keep our fingers on the pulse of the consumer demand, the behavior of the people, how they are changing, what's happening to the demand, etc. The fourth important bit is, while we are a cash-rich, zero-debt company, is a huge focus on cash and cost so that the wheels of the entire value chain keeps working. And last but not the least, how can we help the communities? So these are the areas that we brought in the huge amount of focus at the beginning of the crisis last year. It has helped us tremendously, and it continues to remain our area of focus. And during this period, I was talking about, we have built also new. For instance, when we talk about building resilience in the supply chain, it really entails that you need to have free capacity. So we have created about 30% more capacity in the supply chain so that if there are vagaries of demand, we can fulfill them. The other important bit is the speed that we have brought into our entire operations. And when we talk about speed, Aisha, we look at it from three lenses: is identifying issues, opportunities, the speed of decision making, and the speed of execution. So from all this lens, we have ramped up our muscles significantly. And if I were to focus on health and well-being of our people, we now have 55 full-time doctors in the country. They are about 40% more than what they were at the pre-COVID level. We have got about 45 fully equipped ambulances in the country. And we have created 30 isolation centers for our people to supplement and augment the government health efforts. So these are all the muscles that we have built in to help navigate the crisis.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I was just chatting earlier today with someone. and they said it's people first, business next, and I couldn't agree more with that. But let's talk about business as well, Sanjiv, because start of the pandemic, same time last year, you had people hoard up on biscuits, packaged foods, and everyone was hoarding up on health and hygiene products. Are things different now, or is that still the first port of call when it comes to FMCG?
No, it indeed is different. And the reasons are very simple. That this year, unlike last year when we went in for a very hard lockdown, and then people's immediate gut reaction was to do pantry loading or hoarding, this time there are the micro-containment zones or localized lockdowns. And even in this micro-containment zones, you still have stores open, albeit for a few hours. But people do know that the stores are open, they can hop across, buy the essentials. So at this stage, we aren't seeing any significant loading happen. And I would also, through this channel, like to assure all our consumers that supply lines are running, our factories are running, and we will do our utmost to ensure that they reach the furthest corners of the country.
Glad to hear that. So, and it's soothing to actually hear that there is no panic as was the case same time last year. But tell me, Sanjiv, the first wave did not impact the rural areas. They were a little bit, in that sense, untouched by the virus. Things are different now with the second wave because you are hearing reports of tier 2 and tier 3 cities as well, seeing a spike in cases. What happens if this were to worsen more? Because that's going to impact businesses such as you.
Yeah, absolutely right. If we were to look at it last year, the infections did not spread into the hinterland, or it was at a very low extent. And I think it's very important for us as a country to ensure that we prevent that from happening. And if I may just share a few thoughts. First is, I think every citizen of a country has got a role to play in this. And the biggest role the people in the country can play is help prevent infection to come into them and help prevent spreading the infection. And thankfully, you don't need to wear a lead suit to prevent the infection. Simple behavior, like wearing your mask properly, washing your hands with soap and water or using sanitizer, or keeping a physical distance. I think everyone should become obsessive about it because that's the only way we will be able to prevent the healthcare from coming under more acute pressure. And these behaviors are simple to adopt. And I think everyone should do it passionately. This is the first most important thing. The second, I would say, is from an economic perspective, I think the government did a great job last year from a rural perspective of the direct transfer of benefit, is the food subsidies that they gave. They ramped up the outlay on Manrega. I think if we see in any way impact coming into rural areas, the government might have to reconsider to again look at those benefits, because we have a large population in rural areas and the incomes are limited, the consumption is limited. So I think that's one area the government will have to keep a very close watch on. But as we stand today, we're talking about the end of April. The first 2 months of April, we were into the same kind of momentum that we ended the March quarter. Strong growth, strong sales. And if we look at the numbers now, the last 2 weeks, they are nowhere close to what happened the same time last year. For the simple reason that the supply lines are running, the economic activities, while curtailed, are still running, and that's what made a huge difference. So I think we will have to, as a country, do the fine balancing act between protecting the people and keep running the economic activities.
That's a very important point that you just raised. But Sanjiv, to add to that, what's also going to aid is a good monsoon for the hinterland, as you called it rightly. There are all expectations and predictions from both the IMD, SkyMet and all other weather channels, and that's also going to perhaps aid recovery for the rural end of the market.
Oh, absolutely. Aisha, if we just pause and reflect, just before the outbreak of the pandemic, the rural growths had become really muted. Yeah. And thanks to all the intervention that the government did, and a good monsoon, a good harvest, I think we saw very clearly the consumption picking up. And rural per capita consumptions are significantly lower than urban. And for a country like India, we should have rural growths outpacing urban for years ahead. And that is something which we should be very conscious about and keep a very close watch on. So you're absolutely right. If God is kind, we have a good harvest. And if we're able to prevent the infection from spreading deep into our rural country, then I think the rural consumption will still remain pretty robust.
That's relieving to hear. But if I were to just, spell it out in numbers, since you are sounding pretty confident that rural demand is going to continue, to remain as is, while we have seen a strong double-digit growth in terms of volumes of about almost 16%, there was also the low base impact which was at play. How much of this growth is sustainable? And is there a possibility that you could be back to maybe high single digits?
Let me give a bit of a map of where we stand with the March quarter. Yeah, March quarter, excluding the GSK business which came into our fold, the Horlicks and the Boost brands, our business grew by 21%. Yeah, and the volumes grew by 16%. If I were to look at the March quarter of 2020, the base period, yeah, we had minus 9%. And if you were to ask me, had the last 10 days of supply disruption not happened in March quarter, what is the kind of growth we could have achieved? Remember, this was the time when the rural growth had really slowed down. So I would say that the growth would have been somewhere in the vicinity of 2 to 3%, because that was really muted consumption. So we are talking about that about 11% difference out of the 21% would be accounted for the shift that would have taken place in the previous base. So then I cast my eye and see the sequential improvement. And if I come to a point that it has reached about 10% growth, yeah, intrinsically in the March quarter, excluding the disruption in the base, then I would say for a large business like ours, the largest, by far the largest FMCG in the country, it is pretty good because if I look at the decade that has gone by, our CAGR over this 10-year period has been 9%. So it would be in sync with the average what we delivered over the decade. So, and the other important bit was in Jan, Feb, there was a huge amount of hope, optimism, confidence. It was also on the back of a great budget. Yeah, there was no increase in taxes, some fundamental reforms were taking place. So there was a lot of, I would say, factors which would have propelled the economy forward. And I don't believe that all those fundamental benefits that India has have disappeared. So if in the next couple of months, if we can tame the waves, then I believe we could again get into an area of good economic buoyancy moving forward.
Okay. Let me talk about your individual segments. And when I come to your skin cleansing portfolio, for instance, the big threat, so to speak, for FMCG companies, in fact, why just FMCG, just across, all sectors, is the kind of inflation that you're seeing in commodity costs. when I talk about your skin cleansing portfolio, you've taken about a 7 to 8% price hike as against to a 40% inflation, which is already seen in palm oil prices. How much more of a price hike would you have to undertake to negate the cost pressures?
Thank you for that question, Aisha. Now, this is a very special circumstance this year when three of the big commodities which impact the input prices, the price increase has gone up significantly. I'm talking about palm oil, I'm talking about raw tea, and I'm talking about chemicals, fossil fuel-based chemical derivatives that we use as input into manufactured products. So they have been impacted significantly. Now, if you look at how we play the game when inflation happens, first, we don't look at one-to-one correspondence between an input price increase and finished good pricing. We play all the lines of P&L. Yeah, we bring in huge focus. Even otherwise, we may be a large company, very profitable company, the fifth most valued company in the country, but we have the typical Indian middle-class values of frugality when it comes to looking at costs. So we bring in huge focus on costs. And over the years, our cost-saving agenda had been giving us savings of anywhere between 7 to 8% of our turnover consistently. So that's one point. The second is, when we look at all the lines of P&L, we optimize everywhere. The kind of spends we do behind advertising and promotions, the kind of spends we do behind trade promotions, etc. We optimize that. Then we look at the science of pricing. We are well placed because our portfolio straddles the price benefit pyramid. And our endeavor always has been to protect the magical price points and ensure that the price value equation remains intact. So we bring in a lot of science to pricing and ensure that we take price increase in a very calibrated manner. So while our focus or the priority, Aisha, is always on volume-led competitive growth in terms of prices, because we don't want to lose our consumer franchise, but we also try to ensure that our business model remains intact. What am I talking about business model? If you look at it, we have very healthy EBITDA margins of about 25%, and they have seen a significant increase over the last 8-10 years. So this business model we would like to preserve as much as possible while ensuring that the consumers do not go from our franchise.
Sure. But I just have a point there, and purely as a consumer, not as a news anchor right now is interviewing you. What I've noticed is that since the start of the pandemic, more than brand consciousness, consumers have become price conscious. So while you're saying that you are going to undertake price hikes, but in a calibrated manner, that's sure to then dent your margins at some point.
Yeah. That is the reason we play the entire lines of P&L. It's not that we just look at only the variable margin. We would be looking at PMI spends. We would be looking at our trade spends, optimizing every bit of it. The savings agenda that we have, the aggressive savings agenda, we will ensure that we have fuel for growth. So we will bring everything into play. So, just to give you an instance, you talked about the palm oil prices going up by 40%. Absolutely. And we have taken a price increase which is today significantly lower than what the input increase has been. Because we have been playing the portfolio, we have been playing the different lines of P&L. So that's how we try to do, so that the price impact is minimum. And just to give you an example, if you have a sachet of 1 rupee, you wouldn't want to take a price increase on that. From 1 rupee where you want to go to 2 rupees, that would be lethal. So we wouldn't want to do that. So we would try to protect the magical price points as far as possible and look at in what packs, in what segments of the market, in what brands we can take a price increase. And you're absolutely right, Aisha, that when times are tough, consumers rightfully get more value conscious. But one of the things they also do when the times are tough, they gravitate towards trusted big brands, brands with purpose. Yeah, because they cannot afford the risk of picking up a brand which may not live on the promise.
So, which are the categories, if you could spell it out for our viewers and your shareholders, where you are comfortable taking price hikes a little larger than normal?
First is we must accept that India is a country where the per capita income is only $2,000. And also when you look at it from a lens of consumption, the bottom 40-50% of the consumers, they have only a 10% share of the consumption. So we have to be very conscious about it. And when I talk about price benefit pyramid, let's take laundry category for instance, or let's take skin cleansing for instance. Yeah, we have brands which are below the average price to the market, but great brands, trusted brands, say like Lycra. Then we have brands which are at the average to the market, which would be brands like Lux. Then we have premium brands like Dove and Pears, which would be more insulated because to the kind of consumers they are targeted towards. Then we have the liquids. Similarly, when you look at a laundry category, at the mass end, we have wheel washing powder. At a popular end, we have Rin. Then we have Surf Excel. Then we have the Matix, then we have the liquids. So that's what I meant by straddling the price benefit pyramid. And even if you look at Surf Excel, which is a premium powder, we have a 10 rupee price point pack, which caters to a large section of consumers who may not be able to afford the big packs, but can still get absolutely brilliant clean with Surf Excel, but with an accessible pack of 10 rupees. So that's the game we play, and that's how we try to ensure that we minimize the adverse impact on the consumers, and we still try our best to protect the business model. It's a fine balancing act, not very easy when the inflation is very high. And some price increase will be inevitable.
Yeah, it's a tightrope walk for you. But tell me, what one has seen since the pandemic is, and, like you rightly put, people are gravitating towards trusted brands. And that has also put focus on nutrition, especially this virus. We've all known to eat healthy, to live healthy, and that's all you need to fight the virus right now. What are the innovations that you're making in your nutrition portfolio?
Thank you for that question. If I were to look at the nutrition story of a country, the per capita calorie consumption in the country is about 2,050 calories per day, which is very close to the recommended research. But when you are to peel the onion and look at the breakup of the calories, then we consume a lot of carbohydrates. And as a country, we are deficient in minerals, vitamins, and micronutrients. And that is the reason why the merger of GSK Consumer Health with brands like Horlicks and Boost coming into our fold, I always say is a marriage made in heaven. These great brands have come to the company with huge purpose and huge scale. So one of the things we are very clear about that how do we drive the penetration of the health food drinks like Horlicks, because this category, the penetration level is just about 25-26% in the country today. And so what we have done is we are putting much greater focus on making these brands accessible. We have brought in sachets, we have brought in pouch packs with increased trust. And the idea is that even at the bottom of the pyramid, we can solve the nutrition problems through the route of Horlicks and Boost. And that's where the focus is. The other important bit is, of course, you're absolutely right, that we are at a stage in the country, not just in a country, but I would believe in the entire world, that the focus on health, hygiene, and nutrition is not going to remain just a fad. It is going to go much beyond the pandemic because people have realized how important it is to have a clean environment, to wash your hands, to disinfect your homes, and very importantly, focus on holistic well-being. And we have a large portfolio. In fact, if you were to look at my portfolio, health, hygiene, and nutrition constitutes about 80% of my turnover. And that has held us in good stead. And that will hold us in good stead even going forward.
Are there any new products that you're looking at launching in this category, nutrition specifically?
Oh, absolutely. If you recall that the first thing we did when we acquired the GSK brands Horlicks is we launched a variant with added zinc. And zinc is so important to boost the immunity. And of course, the first thing we did is hundreds of thousands of packs, we gave it free to the frontline people to help them. And if you look at it, we have also brought up a plus range. This is a high science range. This is looking to elders. This is looking towards lactating mothers. This is looking towards women with osteoporosis. And you will see a lot of innovation coming in from our portfolio as far as nutrition is concerned.
As a portfolio and as a strategy, Sanjiv, how is it that you deal with the beauty business and especially the premium segment? And now with this second wave and the spike, do things take a backseat, or are you going to go into the premium segment aggressively?
Yeah, thank you for that question. When we talk about beauty, we must understand the fundamental human behavior that everyone wants to feel good, look good, and get more out of it. Yeah, and the products that we sell, most of them are very accessible products. And they are products which, when you use them, consume them, you feel very good about yourself. There is a spring in the step. And these are categories where we have very strong market leadership. So while because of lack of mobility, it may get impacted a bit, but these are long-term, very attractive categories for us, and we're not going to remove the focus. Say beauty is on the other hand, on the other side, if I look at ice cream. Yeah, ice cream, it got severely impacted in March quarter of last year, the June quarter of last year, because products weren't available, people weren't stepping out, right? But we saw a very strong rebound in the March quarter of 21. And because who doesn't like happiness? And there's a small indulgence which can bring a smile to your kid, smile to yourself. And why would you not like to do that? In fact, when times are stressful, you need to indulge a bit more to make yourself happy. That's what an ice cream does. So when accessibility is there, mobility is there, these categories will indeed bounce back.
Sanjiv, you don't have to market ice cream to me. That's a staple diet when it comes to consumers like me.
I was telling you that whenever you feel a bit low while looking at the news, etc., pick up a stick of Magnum. Nothing better than that.
And trust me,
have a refreshing cup.
Absolutely, and trust me, when you're in the news, that's the only distraction. But I also wanted to talk about how is it that you're looking to leverage the digital platform, because from March 2020, everything has happened digitally on your phones and all other gadgets, all the shopping. Wanted to understand how your Shikha app is doing and what really is the potential to scale it up further.
Sure. Yeah. Aisha, we started on Reimagine HUL agenda, which is leveraging data and technology. Is about 5-6 years back. And we have made tremendous progress in the last 5-6 years. And we would like to be the most tech-enabled consumer good company. Yeah, we're very clear about that. And we are progressing decisively on that front. So we have created very clearly, we bring on there is a consumer ecosystem, there is a customer ecosystem, and also there are the operations, the entire plan, deliver, source, make thing, which comes under looking at it from a lens of technology. Now, Shikha comes under our customer ecosystem. And this is something which we have been working on. In fact, what is there at play today is the 4th version of Shikha. Yeah, we keep improving the functionality, keep getting feedback, and we want it to be a very intuitive use and hugely beneficial to the retailer. If I was to look at it from a channel lens in the country, if I break it up from a channel lens, modern trade would be about 13-15%. You would have e-commerce, which would be about 5%. You would have institutions about 4%, and the rest of it, 75-76%, is general. And general trade, or the Kirana store or mom and pop stores, whatever you may call them, there are 10 million stores in the country. And 10 million stores implies that about 100 million people, the food on the dining table comes courtesy the general stores. So for India, not only economically it's very important, but also from a social perspective, it is extremely important that these stores survive and thrive. And that's the reason we had started working on the Shikha app. And our idea is to bring in technology to the humble grocer and bring him the science of retailing, so that even in the new age, they can survive and thrive. But the challenge we faced before the pandemic was that it was taking a lot of effort to make the grocer adopt and start using the Shikha app. So after putting in a lot of efforts for 3-4 years, we were able to convert only about 100,000 outlets. And in the last 1 year, we have added 400,000 outlets. So we have worked at a speed of adding 1,000 outlets every day who have now adopted a Shikha app. So even if a salesman, for reasons that we can understand, cannot visit a store, the store can still place the order. He can still monitor what is happening to his shipments, and he knows when the shipment will arrive. And we have rejigged the entire backend to ensure that we speed up the deliveries. So not only is he able to place the order seamlessly, but he can monitor and track the order and get the fulfillment with speed. And that's how the technology is helping the humble grocer. And we have seen, Aisha, that during the last 1 year, there are 2 channels which have stood out. One is the e-commerce, for reasons we can understand. The other is what I call as the renaissance of the humble grocer. People have understood the benefit of proximity. You don't have to travel. You don't have to go to any big place where there's a lot of crowd. But just hop across to a neighboring neighborhood grocer and pick up your stuff, or call him up and place an order. Yeah, we also have got an app where consumers can place an order directly to an outlet. Yeah, what we call as the My Kirana. And that is again further helping the Kirana store become like a small e-commerce player. That's where technology is going to make a big difference to the GT channel in the country.
Yeah, that's the only way. But tell me, last year, Sanjiv, we'd seen a closure of a certain production plants. Now with this second wave, and I know we're a little early in it, but are you already seeing some of your production capacities come to a stall or halt?
None whatsoever. All our production facilities are functioning. Our supply lines are working. So as I speak, there has been no constraint whatsoever as far as the back end is concerned.
Okay. I also wanted to talk about your M&A strategy. Are you looking at anything when it comes to skincare brand, given the kind of rise in number of smaller homegrown brands in the space that you are seeing? And also, you know, the pandemic, working from home, sitting at home is also, as a consumer, given you a lot of time to try and experiment with newer things. Is there anything that you've identified, especially in the skincare segment, that you would be eyeing, perhaps?
You know, if you look at our M&A story in the last few years, we first acquired a beautiful brand called Indulekha. It was a small, beautiful brand. Now it's becoming a big, beautiful brand. Then we acquired Aditya Milk, which is an ice cream player, which gave us a lot of insights into low-cost ice cream players, a great acquisition. Last year, we had the mother of all acquisition, the biggest in the FMCG space in the country, with Horlicks and Boost. And then we soon acquired another small, beautiful brand called VWash, which is a personal intimate hygiene brand. So we would always be on the lookout for bolt-on acquisitions. But let me give you another insight what we are doing. We have set up a premium business unit in the company. And this premium business unit is looking at digital first brands, and they are looking at getting into the masking space. These are the two areas that are going to be massive focus. And the whole remit to this team, fabulous team, we've got a very entrepreneurial leader, and they are going to build the brands as if they were startups. So we have created an ecosystem where they will flourish within the umbrella of the big HUL, but they will work with the soul of a small entrepreneur. That's how we are looking. And if a good acquisition comes your way, Aisha, do let me know. Would love to take a look at it.
I was just going to say that I have a long list in the skincare segment as a recommendation for you, but we'll chat after the interview. I assume that you've got a rush, so I'm going to quickly cut it short. My last and final question, talking about GSK, is it a fair assumption that you could see a 230 to 330 kind of basis points margin addition?
We have already done that improvement in margins. And if you look at it, when we acquired this GSK Consumer Health, we had said we have a roadmap of 5 to 7 years where we will be able to boost the margin by nearly 1,000 bps. And in the very first year, remember I told you we are a very quintessential middle-class value Indian company. And so we look at costs in a very close way and in a very frugal manner. So we have been able to generate savings which are ahead of the phased business plan. But there is a lot of work still to be done. We are still to integrate the sales systems, etc. And I would say that as far as looking back at the year that has gone, the first full year of integration, we are very pleased with the integration. Remember, Aisha, we did the consummated the deal during the lockdown. And this had meant onboarding 3,500 people, which we did seamlessly. And the scores that we got when we do our consumer survey, when we do our employee survey from the erstwhile GSK employees who are now proud employees of HUL, were as good, if not better, than what we get from our own employees. Absolutely right off the scale. And so integration went well. We have been able to integrate the IT systems pretty seamlessly. So it is moving in the right direction.
I must say here, Sanjiv, middle class values, but definitely not anything middle class when it comes to your market cap value. So one last question, message to shareholders as we wind up.
I would say that we need to pause and look at the story for the last 10 years. Our market cap has increased by a factor of 9. And the delta market cap that we created in the last 10 years is bigger than the market cap, total market cap of all but 4 companies in the country. And I think what I would give a credit to this, if I were to look at it from a lens of business model, it is the growth, it is the margin expansion that we did, and massive efficiency of capital. Our return on capital employed, even after the merger, but if I exclude the goodwill, the intangible, it remains in 3 digits. That's the capital efficiency. But I think most important is a multi-stakeholder model. That when we focus on our consumers, our customers, our employee, the environment and the society, then the shareholder value does get created.
Okay, on that happy note, Sanjiv, thank you so much for taking out the time and speaking with us today. Great speaking with you.
Thank you so much. And you take care of yourself, Aisha.